Well, I'm going to just continue on. So this tool is now attached. You can see one of the pins. Oh, maybe you can't. One pin right here. Second pin right there. Oops. And third pin right here. Excuse me. So in the manual it says specifically that these pins are supposed to be recessed and flush. I don't know what pins the authentic tool comes with, but it ain't happening. Nope. Not gonna happen. Hold on. Camera's loosening up. There we go. All right. So anyway, yikes, got a metal file on my finger. I have these held in with an elastic. I measure each one. I know for a fact this one is all the way in. I tapped on it with a hammer, and I took measurements all the way around to make sure all three of my pins were in their seat before I put tension on my bearing puller. And all we have to do now, pull it off. I'm just going to watch very carefully for any twisting. No, we're even. I know that this is very, very, very tight. There it is. That's what I was looking for. There it comes. It'll be interesting to get that back on. Got a ways to go. A little bit easier now. The race is mostly off the shaft. This is gonna just let go loose on me in just a moment, so I want to support this. There we go. Okay. Pull her off. Put my gloves back on. Pins out. Tool off. Pins back over there. And my tool back up for later use. And take off our bushing. There we got it. Keep everything in order for the moment. Okay. Now I'm going to call up my supplier and order shaft pins that are, so there's an inner diameter deeper down in here, and these aftermarket pins only go in at 3 millimeters. But if I can get a measurement of that inner diameter and get new pins, I could order pins that are flush. So I'm going to take some measurements, and I'm going to rent out these tools for other people to do this exact process. And with that kit, I will get new pins to supply. Next step is to remove the third speed gear. This just slides out. Now it could come out with the bearing, it might come out without it. So it was actually coming out with the bearing, but I separated it myself. Put this over here. And then there's the bearing. Easy peasy. I don't want to obsess too much about the seal at this moment, even though it's haunting my dreams. But I do want to show you something. So this is a Type A-D radial shaft seal. Alpha Delta. Type A, meaning that it has a rubber exterior instead of metal. The actual steel is inside, underneath the rubber, and it's really firm. I mean, I can't make this flex at all. The D part of it means that it has two radial shaft edges, and that is designed to keep fluid on both sides of the radial shaft seal. So this edge is to keep the gear oil in the gearbox, and this edge is for keeping the clutch oil, but not on the clutch reservoir side of the transmission. There's a, let's see, where's the inlet? There's a, it's kind of a, an interesting, we're going to find the channel. Could be on the other side. Could be, you know what? It's on the other side. When I break the case, let's not use the word break. When I separate the SAP shell from this case, I'm going to show you there's a reservoir that goes through the side of the case, not a reservoir, a tube, if you will, a channel, and it puts clutch fluid inside for the bearing in here, and excuse me, never-ending cold. So you're not actually keeping clutch fluid on necessarily from the clutch reservoir on the other side. It's actually to keep the clutch fluid inside of the bearing as it's circulating there to keep it lubricated. So if this edge fails, and I just discovered this about this particular radial shaft bearing, but if this edge fails and the gear oil gets inside of this inner reservoir, I'm going to cut this in half because I want to see if I'm right. I'm 90% sure that I am. There are little slits inside of here, and then there are holes on the outside. And those holes happen to align with the same exact recess inside of the seat here, inside of the case, where if the gear oil gets through, you'll have gear oil leaping out of the weep hole. This is a theory. I haven't seen this. I haven't spoken with somebody who can reiterate this, but I'm really certain this is the case. So, and the same is true for clutch fluid getting through the other side. Now, from what I can tell, there's a multitude of ways that this can fail, and there's several different terms. Angular is one you'll hear a lot about failures where it's not in its seat. I'm going to exaggerate, right? It's not in its seat. It's more like, can you see that from the camera? I think so. It's exaggerated, right? It's not in its seat. It's crooked, and which means that one side is going to be getting a lot of pressure from the rotating shaft versus the other side, and eventually it will wear unevenly and it will leak. So that's obviously very exaggerated. So in this case, because this is a D ring, I can't properly, well, because of the size of this particular press, I can't put this over this radial shaft seal to put it back in place because I'm going to be putting pressure on the actual this actual section of this seal right here, and I'm supposed to be putting pressure where this steel or the steel plate is underneath there. This is what that's designed for. So I actually 3D printed this disc, and I'm going to send this out for production for a prototype, where that will sit inside of the recess, making it completely flush. Now that's an 8mm hole. So if I put a bolt, once this case is separated, if I put a bolt through the other side, and you have two of these, I can tighten with one side. I can hold on to the wrench, tighten the nut on this side, and it will actually pull it right into its seat, and only as far until the edge of the case touches the edge of my press tool. So I'm going to produce that, and I'm going to use that to to put these back in once we get to that point. But for now, let's continue on. Spending a lot of time in this GD seal for obvious reasons. We are going to be using another tool to continue on to prepare us for getting this SAP shell off the back. This is the AV8823 right here. And we're going to fit this rod into the hole in the indicated pin of the park lock, which is on the other side. Park lock is right here. Okay. So I'm going to fit this in like this. And let's see if I can put this camera down top of the case. And is that going to work? Let's see if this works. Is my hand in place? Okay, right. Hopefully I don't knock the camera over. I'm going to pull this out. Ah, man, okay. This is going to be tight. This is a bad angle. When I pull it out, I'm going to put this in place right there to hold this outwards. All right, so yeah, I'm going to have to turn the camera off when I do this because I'm going to be rocking this case back and forth and the camera's going to fall off. So hang tight. I'll show you what it looks like when this is done. All right, I just turned the case, grabbed onto this with my my strong arm, and pull this back while being careful not to get pinched, and just use my my left hand to prop this in. So this is now in the secure position, and we will continue on to our, yeah, that's locked in there, good. We're going to continue on to the next step. Let's see, over here, we're going to remove this. That's the park lock locking screw, and then we're going to remove this on this side. So let's get those out. This is a T46. Jeez. Out. And then over here, this is a T40. And this here, we're supposed to loosen, not remove. All right, it's loosened. Okay. All right, we have to work on these screws, 2, 3, and 4. Yep, we're actually removing these. This is a T45. One. Two. 3. 4. Okay. All right, those are out. I have a feeling this camera is going to go over. We have to remove the Seeger ring, and of course every time I see the word Seeger ring I have to laugh thinking of the Bob Seeger ring. These are tricky. Tricky to get to. Of course, can't see very well either. All right, let me get my other ones. Got to remove the Seeger ring, and then we're going to pull this out. So here, I'm going to get that ring out, and then I'll be right back. Seeger ring, the Bob Seeger ring is out. Now we just have to remove the park lock pin that it was holding in. Simple as that. I'm going to put that back over here, and I'm going to put that into a bag and label it. Those naughty bolts they told you about way back when, they said do not remove them. So those get removed. I just took them out. Those are T45s. That frees up our SAP shell entirely. The next step is to use a crowbar to separate these two. This is a little bit tricky. Really, there are a few crowbars that work really well. Here, I show in the manual that they have a very sharply curved head. You might notice that they really fit around these bolt housings and then rest onto the tab. So just be very, very, very careful that you have as much of your crowbar, as much surface area of the crowbar onto your tab as possible so you don't break that tab. All right. I'm going to try this with the camera going, which is fine, but it might take me a little bit longer because I try to finesse this. Oh, see? It actually is really easy. Yep, seal's already broken. That's good. Now I can actually do a little bit of pressure towards the bottom. Okay, I'll continue on the other side, and then we'll get this SAP shell off of the gearbox case. So that didn't take much. Didn't even need to go to the other side. Just a little bit of pressure and a little nixie. That's why it's so important to be really careful. And they have the right crowbar too. I wouldn't say this is actually the best crowbar for the job, to be honest with you. 36-inch crowbar with this more flat end instead of that rounded end. Gets the job done, but really, that's okay. Anyway, we've got our separation. Now, there's a whole bunch of components in here that are going to be going with the SAP shell. Ordinarily, this would be facing upwards. So what I'm going to do is slowly separate them, and once our pins start to pull away, I'm going to have this shaft here resting on the top of this hammer, and I'm going to secure it with the strap. It'll lock it in place. It's fine. It'll work just okay, just fine for what we need. And then we're going to get this case off, and then we are in repair mode. All right, all pressure is now off this part of the case, the gearbox case. Everything is held on with this military strap, this ratchet strap, pushing the shaft down the back onto this hammer. And that's holding the SAP in place. This is locked down tight. It's not going to go anywhere. So now, let me just make a little bit of real estate here. Well, you know what? Yeah. Real estate it shall be. Let's go back into this case. Let's get these hands started. Going to need those later. Okay. All right, let's finesse this off. No, it's still stuck on a little bit. Be right back. Took some wiggling. A little bit of elbow grease, as they say, and it came apart. It's okay. So, at this point, we are going to replace these seals. I'm going to wait for my little homemade press to come in. Yeah. See each one of these seals. I don't know if you can see that back there. So anyway, earlier I was trying to explain how the clutch fluid gets in. So it goes into this tube right here, and then you see there's another tube right there, and then it gets inside of this channel and circulates to lubricate that bearing, and that's where the clutch fluid from the weep hole comes from. So it comes into this channel here, and got to be careful of this little tiny O-ring right there. Nothing has to happen with anything over here. This all stays, so we're clear. All right, I'll move on to this repair, and then show you where we're at. We're going to use the same puller we did before to take the seal out on the other side. This is coming out very smoothly. Technically, this seal didn't have to get replaced, but I have extras. I wanted to replace it. People are suggesting replacing the speed sensor, the temp sensor. If it ain't broke, I'm not going to fix it. And there's a question as to whether or not it was actually already replaced once before. I don't know. Some markings on the outside of this, but that could have been just because of how tightly it's been sitting in there. Okay. All right, we can replace our seals. We can lock our bearing in place, put our snap ring back in. Not necessarily in that order. Lock in the bearing with our Loctite 648. Put in the clip properly, put in our seals, and then put it back together. All right, I got 648 in my bearing. I'm just going to drop this in. Okay. Now, I'm just going to pick this up and spin it just a little bit so that 648 will spread against the wall. Okay, and that bearing is in. Next will be our lock ring, and I'm going to heat this with a very small torch, being very careful of the inner race of this bearing because it's not metal, it's a synthetic product of some kind. So, next is the ring. I give it 10 minutes, and now I can't move that bearing at all. It is locked in place. So I'm going to put in this ring. Make sure it's in its proper seat all the way in the back. Okay, there we go. Wanted to show you something special about this particular radial shaft seal that's actually really important. So this seal is actually two parts. You can see this is one that I removed. It's pretty well mangled, but that's fine. On the inside diameter of the inner ring, all right, so this fits inside here, you're going to see these recesses right here. When you put these together, and it's a radial shaft seal, not sure if you can see it or not, but right in here, though, there are little slits that are inside of here. That allows fluid to go through the inner recess of the radial shaft seal and come out of these holes right here. What you might notice is that the hole to the outside is 4 millimeters. The hole to the outside and the other side of it is 4 millimeters. This hole is in the exact center of the radial shaft seal. When you measure the distance from the outside of the case to your weep hole, right here, it's 4 millimeters. So what does that tell you? Even though I can't find the actual specification for the Getrag transmission as to where these seals are supposed to be resting, the purpose of this this seal coming in two parts like this, and that channel on the inside, is if this would be the gearbox side. All right, if it's mounted on the other side, this is the gearbox side. If this shaft seal were to go bad, then gear fluid is going to get inside of the bearing and then basically like seep into this these little channels and then come out the holes, and you will have gear fluid leaking out the weep hole. If this ring were to fail, this is going to be the bearing side, right? The bearing is cooled with clutch fluid. So if this seal fails, then you're going to have clutch fluid leaking out. So this is actually really important to know, because now we know that both seals have to be flush with the case. All right. Here's what I wanted to point out. If this is the gearbox side, and this section right here is to be flush with the casing, not the shaft seal section, right? This outer section here. We can't use our press without damaging that seal. We need our pressure to be on the outside diameter of the radial shaft seal. So what I did is I 3D printed this press right here. This allows for the outer shaft seal to sit inside of that recess. And now when I press this in, the outer band, the steel band, is actually pressing against the 3D printed rim right there. And I know that the seal is where it's supposed to be when this plastic part is actually going to be pressing against the outer casing. So I'm going to send out to Shapeways and produce this and then put it on eBay so other people can buy it. It will be basically completely adjusted for a 12 millimeter rod like this, and we can press it in. I'm going to show you how this particular tool, this is my own design, I'm going to show you how this tool allows us to press these radial shaft seals into their seat. Okay, new gloves, because this has to be very clean. Going to get our Permatex 24125 and lubricate this seal as well as the inside where the seat is going to be. Going to clean this up just a little bit once I get this on. Spread it around a little bit. Okay. It is perfectly fine if any of this gets on the bearing. This is an excellent lubricant. And then once this bearing fills with clutch fluid for its once the unit is back together, this will all be supplemented with that anyway. Okay, so all I did was just place it in its seat. Okay. I'm going to take our tool with the recess. Okay, and this is tightened down very tightly so I know that everything is even. I'm going to thread this through, being careful that the rod not touch the side of the radial shaft seal. And if there's any kind of shiftage, I should probably show you that. Don't want to nick that. I have this here. This is a smooth coupler. So if it happens to hit the side of the seal there, it's fine. Okay, now I'm going to go to the other side. I'm going to take the other press, okay, slide it over our rod. This is going to rest up against the casing, just like that. I'm going to thread a coupler onto this rod. Bring that in. Sorry for the delay. Got a ways to go. All right, we are there. Okay. So, a lot of people will take these tools, and there's a handle that attaches to them. Like this. And then you can hit the end of this here, and then you can hit it in. Any minor shifting can do a number of things. One, it will no longer have a true seat, and you may have some angular misalignment. Two, you can damage the seal. So I don't like, this isn't a lawnmower, right? I don't like hammering these things in. So this press is actually really going to work well for us. Okay, I want you to see how this goes in. So let me see if I can reposition the camera and have it look down. I apologize if it's unable to focus. I think that'll be okay. Okay. The ratchet's going to hit the side of the case on the inside. It's fine. There's nothing over here that is of concern. All right, we are already starting to go in. There. Beautiful. going to go right until I can't tighten it anymore. Then it'll be completely flush. Okay. Now, I'm going to leave that there for just a moment. So, kind of like the skin on your hands, right? If you pull the skin back and you let go, it has memory, so it pulls it back. The lubricant is really, really, really important when putting these on. Otherwise, the seals have the tendency of just relaxing a little bit and then falling back out of their seat. Stuck on the outside of the case. There we go. Okay. One thing I'm going to do with that actual prototype is make it a little bit bigger, so I don't need to twist it on. I'm going to show you the seat of the radial shaft seal. Beautiful. Yeah, and we're flush. There are different kinds of alignment issues that can happen with these radial shaft seals. The biggest one right here is angular misalignment, where it's cocked off on an angle in its seat. It basically puts more pressure on one side of the edge that touches the seal than another. Eventually, it'll just cause too much friction and wear through, and your seal will go bad again. Now, I do have a way to measure to make sure that we are 100% flush. 0.25 millimeter is our acceptable limit. So we're going to go to the other side, and we're going to do the same thing, but the other seal on the other side goes through with this edge facing towards the gearbox, which means we're going to be pressing on this. So we actually don't need this tool because it's flush. So we're going to reverse that. I'll get the tool ready and then I'll show you how we pull in the other one. Okay, so we are now back on the differential side, and we need to get the differential radial shaft seal to press in. This is the one that we're pressing in without that 3D printed tool. It's going to be flush here, but the 3D printed tool is still on this side because we want to avoid harming that lip that's right there. So let's see. You best angle here. Sorry for the camera going all over the place. Does that work? I'm probably gonna hit the camera with my ratchet. I'm sorry. Don't mean this to be all over the place. Well, you get the idea. You saw from the other one what we're doing. This angle is a little bit different. To tighten this all the way until I can't tighten it anymore, and then the rim of the radial shaft seal will be completely flush with the housing, and that means that that 4 millimeter centered hole will be completely aligned. Here we go. Same thing. I'll just let it sit for a moment. It'll be completely aligned with the weep hole draining recess that's over there. Okay, that's tight. I just need to loosen it. Okay, there's one. All right, slide this out without touching the radial shaft seal lips and those edges. Okay, we're out. And there you go. Flush. Feels good. Our seals are in, and I will do a final check with a gauge just to make sure that our angular, we don't have any angular misalignment. So I will check that. We are now at the stage where we can start putting this back together. This is kind of the not so fun part. This is the messy part. I have to go around with a nylon tool, which I don't have in front of me at the moment, and scrape all of this silicone off. And then we're going to use heptane to clean off the edges. No matter how much heptane I use and no matter how much scrubbing I do, it's never going to be completely clean. It will be cleaner. So this is untouched. I will scrape this off. Actually, I've got one, 2, 3, 4. I've got 5, 6. Oh, God. Hold on. Differential to SAP shell to gearbox, gearbox to rear cover, and then rear cover. Yeah, so we have quite a few different surfaces that we're going to have to clean. This is going to take a while, and I will get to it. Take a look at what this looks like right now, and then I'll show you what this looks like after I clean. I'll do this one here first, just so you can see what it looks like when it's cleaned. It is a hot day here in Connecticut. Took a short break. Let us repair. Just a couple of days. I have 3 of the 6 sides cleaned with heptane. I should probably put the cap on this every time that I'm done with it. This is highly, highly, highly flammable. Last thing I want for a single spark to ignite this. No matter how hard you try, you can scrub and scrub and scrub and scrub and scrub. I don't think you're going to get every little bit of the silicone from the prior installation off. One of the things that works against us here is the fact that you can see the machining marks in the casing. And some of that old silicone is just so deeply embedded in there. But this is actually pretty clean. So I'm using this tool. I've worn a gouge right to the tip. Nice thing about these nylon tools is you can run it over a grinding wheel or belt sander and just kind of resharpen it again. But look, it's really, really important to get all of the silicone out of every single little crevice. If I feed a bolt through and push this silicone onto this area here, reminder. By the way, Loctite 5970. This is FCP Euro sells this. Actually, they're based right here in Connecticut. The BMW brand part number is like half the price of the Mercedes brand, and it's the same thing. It's the same size tube, 50 milliliters. And this is probably not enough to do both sides of the gearbox, the two sides of the SAP, and the rear cover. I don't think this is going to be enough, but it's okay. Like I said, FCP Euro is right here in Connecticut. I order it. It pretty much comes like the next day or 2 days, so it's fine. So yeah, just make sure you get everything off of here. The last thing you want is to go through all this work and cheap out on the, boring, monotonous work and then have a leak. You definitely don't want that. I'm going to go over this a few more times. Each edge, I always find just a little bit more that I could remove. Perfect example. Right there on the edge. So, yeah, we're good. Also note this heptane is highly, highly, highly toxic. So I'm in a very well ventilated area right now. I have a door open behind me to the outside, so I'm okay. Just pay close attention if you start getting dizzy. Yeah. All right. I'm going to show you a few more things before we get back to the assembly. We're going to be spending a lot of time in the Bulletin 2621 for this reassembly portion. And directly after this repair, putting in the radial shaft seals, it goes right to basically fitting the synchronizers together. It says synchronizers, right? Air quotes, plural. That's not true. If we did this according to the manual, the only synchronizer that we actually removed was the one that was right here with our crazy little springs and the little balls and the clips. Right? Is right here. So when we put this back together, it only fits one way. So you really can't really mess this up. Taking everything out. All right. You're going to take the smallest ring with the teeth upwards. Okay. There's no rhyme or reason for this. All right. You don't need to line anything up. It's fine. Just put it over. This one, you're going to put it with the teeth down. The teeth have to actually fit inside of these grooves. Okay. And that's that. This is very specific. You're going to see it's got these 3 teeth right here and kind of these keyed marks, right? So when I put this over the top and I spin it, there, it fits into place. Now, people who are not necessarily familiar with synchronizers wonder why this is so floppy and doesn't seem to be sitting right. They're going to be looking and say, well, gosh, one side right here is closer together than that. It's fine. Don't worry about it. There's an important step when we have to put the little springs and the balls back in place. I actually have put a spring back in here, but I'm not there yet. So let me take that back out. I'll put that here. We're going to take this shim. This isn't actually going to go here permanently. This is for the synchronizer assembly for this. All right, we're going to put the shim right here in the center. Okay, with the bevel side facing upwards. You're going to take your synchronizer hub, going to put it over the top. I'm going to center that shim. Okay, And this is the ring that's going to hold in the springs, the balls, and the clips. All right. There's a single hole right here, little recess. There's a single one, and then if you look at this, there's a recess and then 2 recesses on the end. The recess with the center hole only, there's 3 of them. All right, 1, 2, 3, and then there's 3 of the other ones. 1, 2, 3. The one with the center hole is going to go over specifically the recesses right here. Okay, these recesses on your synchronizer hub. So I'm going to align this now. Single hole over that. And here's the reason why we use that shim. That shim gives us just enough room for us to put our springs into each hole and then put the ball over the top. Now, what's really fascinating about that is, I don't know if this is just from trial and error, there's a little recess here in this ring. It actually holds the ball really nicely right there in that little seat, so it doesn't fall out. We're going to take 2 wire ties. We're going to put them around to secure those springs and the balls in place. Okay, and then we're going to slide this ring up, and it's going to snap. It'll go snap right into place, holding the balls right there in that single centered channel right there. Okay. So that is what we're going to do next. I will get my wire ties. I will get all the little parts and pieces together. I'll get my clips together and show you how those go in as well. This is the only synchronizer that you should have to actually deal with when you're doing the weep hole repair. If you are changing synchronizers, different story. If you didn't follow the manual and you wandered off and you did some other things, different story. It's very possible that during your disassembly, you took the other ones apart as well. They all go together basically the same way. This just happens to be the 3rd gear. This is actually 1st and 3rd gear synchronizer, and then this is the 3rd gear right here. So I'll get those parts together and I'll show you how we're going to put this together. All right, we have our wire ties. Going to make our loop. I'm using bare hands for this because I don't want to have my gloves mess up or drop one of these tiny little balls. That would be bad. 3rd gear, our synchronizers are installed. We're going to put our bushing right on the top. We're going to put our synchronizer hub. And here we go. On top of that, we're going to align our synchronizer ring. The single hole here is going to go over that recess. I'm going to push this all the way down. There we go. Beautiful. And I can see, there we go. That's better. Actually, I'm not putting the balls in yet. So I'm going to put this on first. Now, it's really important that when you tighten this, you don't have, this is going to cause a little bit of a recess here, right? You don't want that recess over where the ball is going to be. So make sure I'm going to hold that over. Good. Yeah, we're clear. And this has to be tight. This has to be really tight. All right, so I'm going to pick this up just a little bit. This is perfect. Okay. The nice thing about these kind of cracks me up that this is a legitimate repair technique on like a $40,000 transmission. All right, we're going to put the little ball right there. We're going to push it into its recess, and we're going to cover it with a strap. Okay, that's in place. We're going to continue on. Now, we don't want that strap to come up because otherwise we'll have little balls flying everywhere. Don't want to lose our little balls. All right, that one is in and covered. Push our strap down. Last one. I know our springs are in there. Well, hold on. I can't see a spring in that one. I'll be right back. All right, that was a borderline panic. I found it. It actually fell on the floor. These things haunt my dreams. All right, 3 springs in. Let's go back around. 1 ball in its seat. Locked in place. Spring. 1 ball in its seat. Locked in place. Let's pull this up a little bit. Spring. And 1 ball in place. There. Locked. Okay. I'm going to push this strap down so it's equal on all sides. All right. Now, I'm going to put my hands over the top of this. I'm going to pull the ring up, and you're going to hear a snap. Am I stuck on one of the balls? Oh, there it goes. Aha! There's my snap. My official AMG transmission tool in the garbage. All right, now these clips, these green clips, they're symmetrical. Doesn't matter which way they go. I do know when I removed them, this little icon was facing down towards the 3rd gear. So that's the way I'm putting them back. And by the way, if these clips are super, super cheap. If you want to replace them, no, that's fine. Now, if they're dark, if they're discolored, if they're dry, if they're brittle, if the little ball isn't able to stay in its seat, and if the spring is missing, well, these have to get replaced. That'd be bad. These just snap right in. Okay, so now here's our synchronizer hub. Whatever you do, do not move this ring in and out. Everything's going to go flying out again. Remove your shim. Okay, this has to come back out. Put your synchronizer hub back on. There it goes. And that's that. This is the only synchronizer that you would have to actually put back together for the weep hole repair if you follow that manual. And, oh, it's a beautiful thing. So this ring will shift down to go to this gear, and it will shift up to go to the 1st gear. So that's how it shifts. All right, so that is done. We can now put on our silicone around the edges. We're going to use these guide rods to fasten on that side of the gear housing and that side of the gear housing, and this will enable us to line it up when we slide it back onto our SAP shell. So I'm going to go over this one more time with heptane just to make sure it's completely clean. I mean, I just touched it. I've got oil on my fingers. I want to make it completely clean, and then I'll start to apply. Actually, not this side. I'm just showing you. The rear cover is going to go on this. Oh, correction. No, I'm sorry. Yes, the rear cover is going to go over this. The silicone is going to go on the other side, so we can put it back onto the SAP shell. SAP shell will go back onto the differential, and then the entire clutch side is untouched, and then we'll have the rear cover to deal with. But then we have to put all of these gears back together. So step by step, I'll show you what's next. We're on the differential side of the gearbox. One thing I wanted to point out, not only is it important to get the silicone out of the holes, it's also important to get them out of these studs with a pick, because any material that gets pushed out of there when we put these cases back together could become trapped between the casing, and that would be bad. A lot of material coming out of here. Okay. I have one more over here. A lot of material. Before I put silicone back on here, I'm going to take my vacuum and I'm going to really go over this. If your tool happens to make a little scratch in this, certainly don't want it. Don't need to panic. The silicone will seal that in. You'll see there's machine marks all over this. You can hear that. Tiny little machine marks. So you're not, don't scratch it if you can help it, but okay. I'm going to clean this. I am on the differential side. So I'm going to put these in first. No, sorry. Wrong ones. Up here. And one up here. One thing we need to check as well on the SAPs to make sure that the park lock is in position and that there's a apparently my phone's blown up. Well, here, I'll tell you what, I'll show you that in the manual in just a moment. Let me just get these rods fastened in. Okay. Really important. So your reverse shaft is right here, and it's not, let's see how I can pop this out and then turn it, and it's not, that little lock right there is not in the key. Has to be. All right. Now, there's a measuring tool. And the whole purpose of the tool is to make sure that when we put our bolt back in here through the case, that it's at the right angle. So this falls back down. That is the resting height that we need it to be at. The other part of it is our park lock right here. We want to make sure that this hole is facing in this direction. You can always remember it because it's supposed to face that spring. Okay, and this is where the bolt comes through from the casing as well. Now over here, you may have seen this. This is actually used for a lot of different transmission shops for this exact purpose. This is 3D printed, and I put a 3/16 inch tap in there, and I fastened it to my drill press and polished it. So this is perfectly smooth. I'm going to prototype this, so it's going to be available. It will be in nylon. It will only be like 40 bucks or 50 bucks. Does the job. So that's going to stay in there. So when we lower our gearbox back onto this, the radial shaft seals will slide over this and then go over this lip without getting caught on that edge. And as you can see, I put the Permatex on there as well. We're not there yet. I still have to silicone the edge, but making progress. We're going to take our Loctite 5970. This is a BMW part from FCP Euro right here in Connecticut. The BMW part is about half the price of the Mercedes-Benz part. Go figure. Push tube, take a razor blade, cut off the top so you can see the silicone. We'll see how far one tube gets us. I don't think it's going to be enough for mating all of the surfaces. I'm going to apply this to the SAP shell side, just according to the manual, and I will show you what that looks like when we're done. There you go. It's really important to have a centered bead all the way around, and perhaps even more important for continuity. You don't want any spots that are going to be blank all the way around. Okay, I have my rod guides into the case. And we're all set to carefully place the case back in its seat. Hold on, I want to make sure I've got the right one over here. Yep, okay. All right, a couple of small adjustments and then we are pretty much where we need to be. One thing I want to show you here, these caps that came with this kit are supposed to go over the detents, but they no fitskis. So I'm going to have to reproduce those as well. One needs to go on each one here. It's just not like a deal breaker. I can just push in these high pressure, there's a high pressure spring behind there. I can push in the ball. And then the same thing with over here, and then we'll get around our detents with no issues, but it's going to take a little bit of finagling. So I'll add this to my reproduction list. Yep. I just lifted the case back up about 2 inches so I could put my guide into this. This allows the differential side radial shaft seal to slide over the shaft without getting buckled. This lip here on the other side can get kind of caught on that, so this guide will help us. So now I'm going to push these in just a little bit, and we're going to drop the case down. I'm going to hand tighten some of the bolts on the back side. All right, we've got the gearbox on the SAP shell. I'm seeing appropriate beading of the silicone all the way around. The bolts that we have in here right now, I've got 3 on this side. These are the bolts originally where the manual said do not take these out until it's a very specific point. So those are on that side. These are temporary, 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 and temporary. This is the park lock pin screw. If you're going to reuse it, I am. Clean off the Loctite from it. Where's my Loctite? Found it. Loctite 243. Clean off the Loctite from the threads. And there we go. Clean off the Loctite from the threads so it's clean. And then you're going to put some 5970 on the bolt head. Don't be afraid of it. Okay, to glue it up good. Okay. We're going to put some Loctite on the threads. It comes out quickly. And over here. Feed that in, and we're going to crank it down. This is a T40. Okay. All right. Apologies, I called that last one the park lock pin. That is actually the reverse shaft bolt. This is the park lock pin bolt. Same thing. Should be pretty well goobered up with silicone. We're going to scrape off the silicone, clean it up, reapply another bead onto it, and then we're going to put some Loctite on it as well. So here's my 5970. Okay. And a drop of 243. to install this one. It's going to go over here on the side, just above our pinion gear. Now, one thing I'll note, if you have gone this far and you go to put that bolt in, it's not threading in. It's because you didn't follow that one step of aligning the park lock pin that was facing outwards with the side of the casing. And that means you have to open it back up again. That's no fun. Okay. I like it. And we're going to crank this one down. I think that one is also 17 foot-pounds. Let me verify. Correct. 17. I already have the set for 17. I'm just going to doubly sure. Yep. Nice. Okay. All right, moving on. Just move this back over to the workbench. I can pick it up by hand. If you've got a bad back, don't suggest trying to pick it up. It's probably 80 pounds, somewhere in there, as it stands. One thing I want to point out, before you fasten the bolts from the SAP shell onto the gear housing, there's a tray underneath the lowest gear set in the back. On the back side of the SAP shell, when you have it facing vertical, that tray has two plastic pins. If you don't see these plastic pins protruding right here, I'll get it close up. One right there, one right there. If you don't see those, that's a problem. It means that that tray has buckled on the inside, and going to have to take the case back apart again. And that would not be fun. The other thing we want to check before we do anything else is to make sure our radial shaft seal on the differential side is over that lip and it's not bent or anything, which is the whole purpose of that, which I will also offer in nylon. It will be polished. It will be perfectly fine for the application of the radial shaft seals. So it looks like it did its job. I don't see any buckling. It looks nice and clear. Yeah, we're fine. Okay. So you should have already done this before. Lubricated the gearbox side radial shaft seal with your Permatex lubricant. I have. It's all clear. Don't be afraid of getting it inside where the bearing is. That is also clear. I also wanted to make a very important distinction. So one of the reasons why the gearbox side radial shaft seal fails is because this is actually a dynamic seal. The shaft is rotating inside of the radial shaft seal itself. The differential side is locked over an external shaft. So let me show you. This is going to feed through our radial shaft seals. Okay, radial shaft seal itself on the gearbox head is going to rest right in here, and the bearing is going to spin here, and then you'll see there's a recess. So, like I said, the differential side, the clutch side, if you will, of the that radial shaft seal is static. No, there's nothing turning in that. So this one is really, really, really important. We have our bearing in, we've locked it with the Loctite 648, and we have our little tiny lock ring in to hold it in place. 648 is actually sealing that a little bit too. That's fine. We have our radial shaft seal properly pressed in, and I have double checked that I have bubbling silicone all the way around the case. I do. It looks great. Yep, everywhere. That's what you want to see. If you see a section that's not bubbling out, that's it's okay, but could be a concern. All right, moving on. Next up, we're going to put our roller bearing on the secondary shaft. We want to make sure this is clean. So I'm using a clean paper towel to get everything off of here. Visual inspection. Looks great. That paper towel is trash. This is the roller bearing we're going to slide back on. If you recall earlier when we put together the synchronizers are going to go back over this. Make sure that every single one of these small bearings are in their seat. All right, this is plastic. You can actually pop these out. So don't lose them. And because we're reapplying a bearing, don't be afraid to lube it up. Okay. Right back onto its seat. Now, I lubed up the inside, but this is a roller bearing, right? So that means that as this spins, all of the little rollers are going to pass that lubricant to the outside. So there's no need to actually lubricate the outside. You can if you want to, it's harmless. But the lubricant's expensive, so while it's okay to be liberal, don't waste it. Next, we're going to fit this roller bearing cage on the secondary shaft. You'll notice that this one actually has a little section here where it can be opened up, allowing you to glide it on a little bit more easily. Same thing. Let's lube up the inside. First, let's wipe down the shaft with a clean paper towel. And you know what? Let's pick this up. So our band is cranky. Everything's all lubricated and slippery. There we go. Okay. Give it a visual. Clear in the garbage. Let's lubricate the inside of our bearing cage. Make sure all of our little bearings are in their seat. They are. Okay, beautiful. The next stage is a little bit tricky because we need to actually take those two components we took out earlier together. I'll show you in a moment. We're going to be putting them right back the way we took them out together. So let me get those ready, and then I'll show you what we're going to do. I'm going to read the manual to you as it's actually stated. I'm going to fit the 5th through 7th speed fork. It's this one. It's the one with the ridges. Okay. Onto the synchronizer assembly and the 5th speed gear as shown in the photo aside. Okay. This is going to fit on. Okay, we're going to hold it just like this. Okay. Let me move this other synchronizer over here. Next, we're going to grab the odd shaft. These are odd shaft. Now we're going to put these in at the same time together. Now, sometimes people put a sock over this to make sure it doesn't touch the radial shaft seals. Actually, you know what? Let me put this down. I'm just going to be super, super, super careful. You can use both hands, center it, and of course I have to move my fork, which I'm currently touching. Put that down there. All right, I'm going to get this just started. Okay, I'm inside the sleeve. Okay, I can stop there. Now, my synchronizer came apart. Let me just put this back together. Synchronizer is back together. Okay. Oh, so here's the cap. Goes on the end. This is only to help guide you over those roller balls that are pressurized. It's not impossible to get them in. The thing is, this didn't come with a screw to actually hold it on. And I don't have time to go to the hardware store. So I'm just going to be gentle and maneuver this carefully and get that over. Okay. Just want to make sure everything is lined up. Okay. Maneuver this on. Make sure you hold the synchronizer together because everything is going to want to just come apart. Okay, we're at the point where the rod is going to want to snap in place. And when it does that, it's going to want to pull the synchronizer in. What did we learn before? About the little springs and the little balls. They're in this one too. We didn't take this one apart earlier, but they're in here. So when I do this, I'm going to get underneath this microfiber cloth. Add another one over here. I know this looks a little silly, but as I guide it in, I'm going to be doing two things. Here, let me show you first. I'm going to be holding this like this, which is going to secure the synchronizer, right, in place. And as I slide it in and I feel that grab, it allows me to control it as I'm going in. So I'm going to cover this. Okay. I don't necessarily need to see what I'm doing. I just need to feel it. I'm getting close. Turn this in the bench so I have a little more stability. Okay. I'm in. Yep. Success. Okay. Just going to put a little bit of lubricant on these gears. All right, now, as I turn, there we go. Beautiful. Okay, we're in. Yeah, we're good. Let's make sure our synchronizer is flush with the splines of the shaft, and it is. Beautiful. So we can continue on. We're going to grab the last rod in our kit. Now, I was able to go out to the hardware store and get the appropriate bolts. A little fascinating about this. This actually has 2 cones, and each one is a little bit different. Now this one is wider. This has got a wider tip, the same diameter at the bottom. So could very well be for a different fork. Everything's the same. I'm not sure why they have one over the other. That's okay. The bolt is an M5, 5mm, 80 pitch, and I got a 30mm in length. With that, I have about 2mm of thread to hold this in place. Now, if this were to come off inside the casing, that would be catastrophic. So I'm going to just put a little bit of extra tension on that so it stays on. And we're going to pull this over again, because as I push this through, that metal ball under that spring load is going to snap into each one of these reservoirs on the rod, and it's going to want to rapidly pull this forward, which could disconnect my synchronizer, and the little bearings, the little balls, the little springs, and the clips go everywhere. We don't want that. So we're putting the gear side on first. Synchronizer is going to be outward. Make sure I'm in the video. Yeah, okay, we're good. All right, I'm just going to get this onto the shaft, just a hair. Okay. There. Now, if I go in the back, I should see that cone passing into its seat. Yep, I do. That's perfect. All right, I'm going to cover this up. If any mechanic were to tell you that they were working on this transmission and they've never had these little balls and springs and everything shoot out, they're lying. It's going to happen to everybody. All right, I'm going to secure this as I maneuver this in. All right, there's one. I can feel it snap. Just verify. Okay, I'm not all the way in yet. Those guides are really tight. I'm at the first recess, and I need to pop out of there. An important text message. Okay, I'm in the middle, not quite on here yet. Can't tell if I'm actually on the roller bearing yet. Yep, I am. Alright, so the rod is just giving the pressure that it's supposed to give as I maneuver this on. This is one of the more delicate processes. Right back. All right, we're good. Got one more to go. You probably hear the snap. There it is. There we go. Yep. Okay. Same thing with this synchronizer. We're going to verify that our synchronizer is flush with the splines, and it is. So this is now in place. I am no longer at risk of the synchronizer coming off unless I pull this rod out or push this rod in, whichever I do from either side. Got my cone, got my M5. All right, excellent. Now we're going to take the shim ring. Now when I took this off, I put a permanent mark on here, always for me facing out. Doesn't matter which way this goes. Well, you know what? I might take that back. No, and under these circumstances, the back side of this has a slightly different edge to it. That could be just from the wear of the way the gears are pressing on it. Regardless, I'm going to clean this. Okay. Next, we are going to take our sleeve, and this is actually really important. There are 2 holes, 1, 2, on opposite sides of the sleeve. Again, there's my mark. Those holes are supposed to be only have one lubrication. Yeah, okay. So it's hard. Well, here, remove the camera. There's a hole right there. We want the hole in this to be up at the top, and we're going to have another one on the bottom. And the reason for that, let's see if I get the camera back aligned again. If you look inside here, there's a channel. Okay, and as gear oil gets pressed into this, it provides lubrication into that channel, which then comes out of these holes and lubricates our assembly. So I'm going to just slide this on. It's going to get tight right there. Okay, now we're going to line our holes. You know what? I'm going to turn that shaft from the primary so that is now level with the bench, and this one can be directly up. All right, now just to get this started, I'm going to grab a rubber mallet and just tap on this. Okay. Now, instructions say to use the AV8616, which is this tool. Yes, we can. Now, what I find, it makes me a little bit uncomfortable, is the outer diameter of this sleeve is practically the same as the inner diameter of the 8616. Now, if we go over here, I don't remember the model number of this part, but this is part of the kit. All right, this one lines up perfectly. So once we get this on a little bit further, we can switch back to the 8616. I might need to strap the transmission to the bench because as I tap this, it's probably going to move inward. Some people will take a plumbing strap and put it around here and fasten it to the tool so it stays kind of locked on there. I'm just going to hold it, and that should be fine. This is going to go all the way on. Yeah. So they tell you to use a rubber mallet with the 8630. Make a correction. The 8630 is this one. You'll know it's the 8630 because it's got this lip. On the inside there's a bit of a recess, but this whole thing fits over the entire sleeve and then up against the shim. So I don't know what they're thinking. Mind you, this set is not authentic. I don't know who designed it. I don't know who made it. I do know it was made in China. Nothing against China, just not an authentic part. So I ended up using the 8616, which actually fits right around there, and keeping it as flush as possible. But they tell you to use a rubber mallet. Good luck. It doesn't budge with a rubber mallet. So I tapped it with my iron hammer. It's fine. It's in place. Now, I will say one thing. It doesn't mention this in the manual. As you're tapping, your synchronizer tends to creep outward. And if you take an elastic band, like I did here, put it around the secondary shaft, and then put it in the synchronizer, it will actually hold it in place. That worked really well. So, good advice. Yeah. Sleeve is on. I cannot move that shim. We're in a good place. We are in a good place. Next, we're going to put our bearing cage for the 7th gear onto the secondary shaft. I'm going to lube up the inside. Also going to lube up our sleeve. Okay. Just a test. Everything is great. Those holes that I was showing you earlier, those are what lubricates that sleeve. Now we're going to take our 7th speed gear, let it clean. Synchronizer going to go towards the inside of the casing, and then turn it until it clicks into place. There it is. Okay. Beautiful. And this is all in the manual, everyone. This is not not doing this by memory. I'm looking at the manual too. I will always look at the manual every single time that I do this. It'll become second nature. Sure, fine. But anyway, looking at the manual. Beautiful. Perfectly smooth. No issues. I love it. Okay. Recall the shim that we were using to utilize as a base plate for our synchronizer. That's this right here. We're going to be putting this one on next. The beveled side. I know I put a magic a black mark on this, but probably just rubbed off from me handling it. The beveled side is going to face outward. The flat side is going to be going up against the 7th gear. Once we get it in a little further like that, it's going to grab, and we're going to grab our 8616. Slide that on. I would like to use a rubber mallet every time that I possibly could. I just don't know if it's going to have enough. Oh yeah, it's going on. Nope, still have some play. This has got to be on there tight. Hold on, the entire transmission is shifting. Nope, still just a little bit of play. Nope, not yet. Okay. And that is on. Next, we're going to fit our Seeger ring onto here. Now this is the Seeger ring without the holes, so we need one with the flat jaws. Now, you only need to open it a little bit to get it on, but keep in mind that this has the ability to snap and go across the room too. So we're going to be careful about that. All right. It is not snapped into place. We're going to use the 8616. Just a couple of taps. Nope, not snapped in yet. Try not to hit the camera. Bottom is snapped in. That's in its seat. You know what? I don't think our I think that shim has to go in a little bit further. I'm going to take this off. Yeah. There's probably like a 1/4 millimeter of play in there, and there shouldn't be. All right. The synchronizer was not actually in its seat where it was supposed to be. What I ended up doing was taking a... Well, I'll show you. I'm a woodworker, and a lot of the tools I have are woodworking tools. So I use this to hold the synchronizer in place as I was tapping that sleeve back on. Let's back up the rafters. Okay. So I had to actually remove everything and put it back on, and as soon as I put it back on again, the circlip snapped right into place, and I can rotate it freely. So we're in good shape. This shaft is now set. 26, bulletin 2621, page 53, step 75, figure 75, talks about here, but it doesn't actually tell you to put the bushing on this this shaft as well. So you have a bushing here as well. So we're going to put this bushing on here, and 8630 is a perfect fit for that. We're going to do the same thing. There's my hole. It's at 9 o'clock if you're looking at that from that direction. And there's writing stamped into the bushing on this end. There's no writing. So the writing is going to go out, all right? Don't be afraid to put some lubricant on this, by the way. This bushing is held in place. It's there for a reason, yes. But the tolerance is so tight that a little bit of lubricant is helpful. So, okay. I'm going to put my holes on the bushing at 12 and 6. All right. Let me just crank this down a little bit more. All right, that's pretty good. 8630. You know what? I'm going to start just with my rubber mallet, which is currently. Where's my rubber mallet? Where did it go? Right in front of me. Okay, that's as far as I can get it with my rubber mallet. 8630. This is actually a big tool. I don't think this is going to go on with a mallet, but we're going to try it. Actually, yeah, it's going on. Okay, now half of the bushing is on